Hi everyone, welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday for February 26th, 2020. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I am out and about with my husband today. We are doing some shopping and having a daytime date, so to speak, and going out to lunch and different fun things that we like to do. So today I have a recorded video for you, obviously, and it is with this Positive Thoughts stamp set, which is one that is in the January mini catalog. And now it has a set of dies that were just released called Nature's Thoughts dies, and I've got them here on a magnet so I can show you what they have. You can cut this out, you can cut your butterfly, the feather, the flower. There's another feather that embosses. You've got this fantastic frame with this stitching, but it's kind of like a zigzag stitching on it. You've got some extra little leaves and this little lattice piece, and then another flower. So those are what you can do if you cut out if you buy those dies. And now this stamp set is fantastic. I love it. And we are going to make a super fluffy card today, as I like to call it, with lots of little pieces and layers, and it's one of my favorite things to do, and I haven't done one like this in a while, so I thought today was going to be the day. So I'm just going to set the stamp set aside. We'll put this, as it's rolling down back into the camera, I will put the card over here to the left, and we will get started with a piece of So Saffron cardstock. Then we also have a piece of Pool Party Whisper White, and then I cut that little frame, and you can see that amazing stitching on there in So Saffron as well. And then of course I have a ton of little die cuts that we're going to use. So let's get started with getting our card base folded, and just always use your bone folder. It's a fantastic tool to make sure everything, you have a good crease on your card. So we're just going to make our layers with our Pool Party as that first layer. Then we add that Whisper White on top of that, and then we'll add that So Saffron frame, and then we are just going to attach all of these layers to the card base. So I guess the card base is actually our first layer, but as far as what we were just putting together, obviously that was the Pool Party. I love 3 of these colors together. So pretty, so spring-like. I think it would be cute for an Easter color combination. I think that's just a cute combo. All right, go ahead and get that on there. And then the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to stamp that large leaf flourish, or whatever you want to call it, stem. I don't know what plant that is, so if you know, add it in the comments while you're watching and let me know so I can come back, and I'm going to come back and check comments later, because that way I can answer any questions anyone has. And so now I just kind of went not quite to the corner with that stem, but just a little bit, and just stamp that image on there in Sahara Sand. This is Sahara Sand, and we are going to stamp a couple of other little things in Sahara Sand as well. I'm just going to grab some scrap Whisper White, because we aren't going to need a whole lot. So I'm actually going to grab a couple of little pieces that I have right here, and I'll show you what else we're going to stamp. We're going to clean this stamp up first, because we're going to use that in just a moment. Set that aside. We are going to stamp this feather in Sahara Sand, and you only need 2 of them, which I should have said, I almost said you only need 1, but you do need 2 of them. So stamp 2. Then just clean your stamp. We're not going to use that one again, but I had the cleaner there, so why not? Then we are going to go ahead and open up Soft Seafoam ink, because that's going to be the next color that we want to stamp this leafy flourish in. And it looks like I need to re-ink my Soft Seafoam. Let's hope it just fits on this scrap piece that I chose. Then I'm actually going to need 1 more scrap piece, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get both flowers. We'll be able to get 1 on that sheet with the feathers. It's always good to keep your little scrap pieces because it comes in handy when you're doing things like this and you want to die cut. You're going to do one in Flirty Flamingo, and then we are going to do one in So Saffron as well. Let me just grab it because I don't have quite enough there. I'll just grab another little scrap that I have over here. It was used for something else. I punched something out of that one at some point. Open up our Sahara Sand. And then we're going to keep that Sahara Sand open because we're going to use that for our sentiment as well. Now, what you're going to do with all of these pieces is you're going to die cut them out. And because of the magic of making a video, I've already die cut them out. So I'll pull them on screen in just a second. We're going to take a piece of Whisper White and we are going to stamp the sentiment, "Friends like you mean more every year," using that So Saffron ink, and kind of bring it. Actually, you know what? Before we stamp it, sorry, let's get that banner triple punch because I want to cut that end off first so I know right where my little banner is going to be. So cut that end off first. Then you want to stamp it. We'll re-ink it so it's a little bit closer to that banner area because we're going to punch a little hole at the other end. And then if you have a hole punch, you could also use the Label Me Fancy punch if you want to, because that has a little hole punch on it. Just punch a little hole in that because we're going to tie a piece of twine through that. And I think other than, oh, let's stamp the inside piece. We want a little bit for our inside of our card. So here's our Whisper White piece, and we are just going to stamp, actually, probably didn't need to re-ink it because I want to stamp it off just a little corner of that flower. So we have that for the inside of our card. And that's all our stamping. The rest of this card is putting together and layering, which again, you know I love to do that. So this is going to be so much fun for me and hopefully fun for you. We'll set our inside piece off to the side. We can set these little pieces off to the side and I can punch those out for another card later. Now, this die cut, I cut one of them earlier. Actually, I cut two of them earlier, but I already have a piece of it chopped off from the first one because we only need a little piece of it. So I don't see any point in cutting this one. I just wanted to show you the whole piece. So we're going to need one of these pieces. I have a lot of pieces here, so hopefully I'm just going to dump them all out and we'll go through what they are. I've got both of the flowers that we stamped. I have a lot of these little leaf flourishes. I have a vellum feather, and this one keeps curling up. It likes to curl up. I have one of the Sahara Sand feathers, and I should have another one over here. See, this is what happens when you have so many pieces. You kind of lose some of them. So I might be missing one of my Sahara Sand feathers. And I was very careful to make sure I had enough of them. But I guess I'm missing one. Oh well. So instead of that, you know what? I have some extra little white or big white feathers. We're just going to add a white feather instead. We're just going to go with the flow. Got lots of these little leaf flourishes, and some of them are, like I said, we have Flirty Flamingo, we have Sahara Sand, we have some in Soft Seafoam. Here's another Soft Seafoam. And then we have some vellum. We have this one in the Petal Pink for one of the feathers. And so we're just going to get started. So the first thing I want to do is just these two. I'm just going to lay them down. Actually, I'm not going to lay them down yet. I'm going to lay down this first leaf flourish. This is how I do my building. I lay them down onto the paper, just small pieces at a time. I don't do everything all at once because then you end up with just everything all over and it's not where you want it. And then I had these two, and I layered the yellow flower over the Flirty Flamingo flower just a little bit. I kind of want that Flirty Flamingo flower just a little bit higher this time. So now that I have that, I'm just going to kind of take that whole bundle and just flip it over. I just held it in place and flipped it over. Now this is where you end up using a lot of dimensionals or a lot of glue or whatever adhesive you're using. But at least stick that basic layout down and make sure you get a little bit of adhesive on each piece. So they're all still together. Now it's still pretty floppy and things will move around, but I've got that feather stuck with that one dimensional. The two flowers are there. And you end up using a lot of adhesive with this, but it's so much fun to layer things like this that I can't resist it. I have to do it. Now we're gonna take that petal pink feather and we're gonna stick that in there. And now we could cover over that little bit of soft seafoam, and that's what I did the first time, but I'm not gonna do that this time. I'm gonna let that little bit of soft seafoam peek through. Stick a dimensional on the back to hold that feather on there. And now, since we are just going to be using this white feather in this place, we are just going to adhere that white feather down, because that's what I did with the other feather that was on the other card, the stamped feather, but we're just gonna adhere that white feather down so it's just on the cardstock. Now that we've got these, I think we are ready to actually adhere these down, and then we can add in all of our other little pieces. And now, depending on how you want to add them in, I sometimes use glue, I sometimes use glue dots. It just depends on what I'm putting down. But I always add a couple of extra dimensionals to my bottom pieces, trying not to get super close to the edges because that's where you're going to be sticking in your other elements. And so you want a little bit of space for your other elements that are going to be coming in. I will do one dimensional right there, just above the first one that we put on that feather. So then just go ahead and take all of your backings off. And now, like I said, this is the process that I do when I'm doing any kind of layering like this. It doesn't have to obviously be floral. It could be just, you know, something else. I don't even know. I can't think right now. My brain's a little fried. My brain's always a little fried, let's be honest. Okay, so we're going to adhere this down. And then you see how you have all these loose edges, which is fantastic. Now for this feather that comes in on this right-hand side, I used a glue dot on that feather, and I only needed one. And because this feather is doing that curling all on its own, it's perfect for this. Love it. Just slide it under there. Just push down a little bit, and then you've got your feather in there. This little piece on the side, you can do the exact same thing. Just put a glue dot on the back of it. Slide it under the edge. And this one is actually a little bit longer than the other one, and that's okay. It's going to stay that way. And just push down, and then it sticks to the base of your card, which is perfect. Now for this piece, I didn't use a glue dot. I actually used some Tombow glue. And all I did was I took that Tombow glue, pardon my reach across the thing, I got some of my tools are on each side, and I just put a little bit on the stem. And then I just kind of, using my take your pick tool, lift that edge up just a little bit, slide it under there, and just, whoops, I was gonna say just push down and hold it in place. There we go, and now it's in place, and it's kind of actually stuck to the back of this flower, which is perfect because it gives it just a little bit more dimension because it's coming right from the back of that flower. This next piece, I actually put glue on these two leaves because, as you can see, I only have 4 little leaves poking out here. These other 2 leaves are kind of stuck to the back of that feather. So just push it down and you've got those little pieces sticking out. You don't have to worry about the stem too much. Kind of put it in so it's pointing the other way. I was poking out a little bit there, so I had to adjust it. And then the same with this one. I just put a little bit on the stem of this one though, and then just 1 leaf because it's only going to be poking out just a little bit. And I'm just going to actually kind of push that one. I don't know what it is about these 2 feathers, but these both like really curled when they came out, you know, after they were die cut. So I'm just letting them be the way they are. It's just fine with me. Now we're going to add some of these other little soft seafoam pieces. Same thing, just add a little bit of glue to the back of them. I'm gonna pry this up just a little bit. I'm gonna just slide it in there, and then it will stick nicely just between those two flowers. Same for this tiny one for the bottom, just a little drop of glue on the end of it. And it's just gonna slide in between those two flowers and just kind of poke out there just to add a little bit of extra texture and color. And now, as you know, this is one of my favorite techniques. I love doing this. I call it a technique. It's just a layering, but a lot of people are intimidated by this. It's really not that hard. It's definitely easier when if you lay it out and then flip it over, at least for me, to see how everything is gonna look when I get it done. That really helps me. Now, if that doesn't work for you, don't do it that way. Do it whatever way works for you best. Now, we only have a couple left over here, and we only need, I don't think we need all of these. We are going to use this little vellum one. Those little stems fit right in the end of the bottle. I just realized that. We're just going to slide this one underneath as well, right there by that soft seafoam one, and then glue that petal back down. Now, since we didn't get that Sahara sand coloring in there, let's toss one of these little guys back there, this extra leaf flourish. I just put a little bit of glue on the back of it. So then we have some of that soft seafoam, or not soft seafoam, sorry, Sahara sand color mixed in with that white feather, which is kind of what we have back here when we stamped that Sahara sand feather, onto that. Now we'll use these two pieces to go on our little tag. We're going to take a piece of linen thread, and we just want to tie a bow, and we want to have the tails pretty long. So you know me, I don't like to measure, just cut what you think you need and go from there. Even if you mess it up, you have a little bit too much, not quite enough, you can always use it for another piece, or just, again, go with the flow. Leave it the way it is. It's not a big deal. Everything doesn't have to be perfect when you're making your card. Now, I know some people want everything to be perfect, and that's okay. If that's your thing, do it. But don't stress about it if it's not your thing. Definitely don't stress about it. All right, get your bow tied. If it doesn't lay the way you want, no big deal. Let it lay whatever way it's gonna lay, because this is not gonna lay the same way as the first bow that I tied. Obviously, this one's kind of going up instead of to the side like I wanted it to. Oh well, that's how it's gonna be. So it's kind of upside down. Oh well, no big deal. Just gonna cut the tails off just a little bit. Then I'm going to take these two little flourishes, and I'm just going to stick them in that hole that we punched. And then when you flip this over, because those stems are sticking through, let's try to get them, maybe we can stick them a little bit behind this bow. So, oh, there we go. We got the bow going the right way. A little bit behind the bow, so they kind of, see, I used my big one that I originally used in the first one. So now these two just want to go the same way. All right, stick them through, and then all you're going to have to do is get them to stop sticking to your fingers. Add a glue, or a dimensional right to the back of that, and that's going to hold them in place. Take a couple more dimensionals, one in the center, one on the end. Throw it on your lap, whatever you need to do to get your creative process done. And then I angled this at the top of the card. Sorry, I hope I didn't stick my face on the camera. I may have just done that. I try not to do that while I'm recording, but every once in a while, stuff happens. So I kind of like that ribbon or that twine where it's kind of long like that. It looks really cute. And then for the inside of your card, just flip it open. We already have our piece stamped. We are just going to add some snail adhesive to the back of it. Adhere it on the inside. And there we have it. Today's One Card Wonder Wednesday using the Positive Thoughts stamp set and the Nature's Thoughts dies. So I hope you enjoyed today's One Card Wednesday. I hope you can join me next week for another One Card Wonder Wednesday. Have a great evening, and I will see you next week. Bye.